Do you think that the UK can recover?
It's a very difficult question. My immediate answer is
10 fucking Islamists in Camden just assaulted me, yeah? And look at me, I'm still standing here. So Muhammad's army, the mighty Muhammad's army can't do shit when we stand in their faces. They're trying to take over the fucking West. They're trying to destroy free society, freedom of thought, freedom of expression.
we're paying to be lied to.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to take you outside. I'm gonna drag this camera with me. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so I want to show you guys what does it mean to live in Israel. So maybe you hold. I'll hold this. Can you just open the door? All right, welcome to another episode, guys. In today's episode, I have a very special guest. Most of you might have seen him lately in all kind of social media platforms, coming out like a Jewish Peaky Blinders, straight from London after he had I guess a brawl or a fight, standing his ground against radical Islamists in Europe and against anti-Semitism. Without further ado, I'm gonna welcome Samuel. Welcome.
Good to meet you. Good to finally
Likewise.
meet you.
Did I say the name right?
Samuel, absolutely. Everywhere outside of England, in Europe and in Israel, people say Samuel, Samuel.
That's what I say, Samuel.
Samuel in the English.
Okay, I said
English
Samuel,
accent.
but I guess Samuel.
Let me get
Samuel.
comfortable.
I love the hat, man. I love the hat. So Samuel, you have just moved to Israel, right?
I have. I made Aliyah in November of last year.
And you're originally from London?
Born and raised, yes.
Born and raised.
Born and raised Northwest London, like the vast majority of the Jewish community in England.
So you're a Brit.
Yeah, through and through, pretty much.
You consider yourself as a British? Like someone asked you?
I realise how British I am living here because there's a fairly few of us. We're scattered around Israel, but there's more Americans and American culture influences here quite considerably. So I realise how British I am being here, but in England, I don't feel so much connection to the culture, honestly, and I never did.
Well, I'm gonna jump right in because a lot of the viewers here might have seen your videos go viral. For those of you who don't know, that's how I got to know Samuel, because he posted this video.
Top left, that's it. Top left.
Top left?
Yeah.
No, that's the one that you're fighting, but I wanna the one that you're talking about, the soup.
Ah, yes.
Today, I got assaulted by a gang of Islamist thugs who stole my Israel flag, and that made me sad. But I kicked the shit out of two of them, and that made me happy.
That's where everyone were cheering out.
It's just a scratch. Nothing a bit of chicken soup can't solve. I'm Israel Chai.
Man, I love that. When you get, I think I watched that video again and again and again when you just, because everybody who's been watching anti-Semitism in the UK and the rise of radical Islam and how the UK basically just rolled over, letting them take over their country. You know, forgive my French, but that's how it looks like. It looks like they just rolled over a once great empire of fierce warriors that went, ruled the seven seas, is just rolling over and letting enemy ideology come and take their country. And then watching someone from Britain that went and stood his ground. And then we had your next video, which is... And you got attacked here.
Yeah, it didn't take much longer than 2 minutes of holding an Israel flag and a Union Jack UK flag, shouting we're against Islamic terrorism and the Jewish state and Jewish people will live forever, for about 10 Islamist thugs to take opposition to that.
So all you did is just walked with an Israeli flag and a UK flag. And
I was shouting a little bit, in fairness.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
But that's still not a reason to attack you.
No.
And they just jumped on you? Or can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, so I planned with a few friends for that day to go into Camden town, which is quite a notorious part of London, fairly liberal area of town, to take a UK flag and an Israel flag and to parade down the high street back towards the station. And that's what I did. And I was saying things like, the Jewish people will live forever, we are not afraid of Islamist terrorism, and everything along those lines. I wasn't being hateful. It was simply a show of we're not afraid, we're still here. And it was also for the British people. And I really, I said I didn't really connect to British culture, but I'm extremely proud to be British and thankful for everything that country has given me and my people. My grandma immigrated to Egypt, from Egypt to England after being kicked out by the Egyptian government. She came with nothing on a boat, so I'm very grateful. But as you said, where the immigration has gone from the productive, assimilating immigration, like my family and like many others, it's gone from that to, like you said, voluntarily rolled over and put British people and British values as secondary, and it's very noticeable now.
So you're walking there with the flag and you're standing your ground basically and you're sharing your opinion. And then what? Just people just came and decided they want to fight with you? Did they start talking to you before?
They didn't start talking to me, no. One of them shouted, "Get him." And they just, at least at the start, there was at least between 4 to 6 of them, and then it became about 10 of them. But I was with 4 other friends, one with a camera, so 3 other friends who were not visibly with me, across the road, behind me. So they were able to step in the way somewhat. But I had my coat being ripped off me by 2 guys from 2 different directions. And as that's happening, I'm getting punched in the face.
You got punched in the face?
A few times.
Is that where you got this?
Yeah, they can hardly leave a mark on me for a week, so they need to work on their punching. But
And I will never submit to the will of Allah. I'm a proud Jewish man, and I will stay fucking proud. They're trying to take over the fucking West. They're trying to destroy free society. He told the Jewish children what Islam is. Islam is a murderous ideology. It does not believe in freedom for women. It does not believe in freedom for women, for gay people, or freedom of speech. It only believes in freedom and happiness for people who submit to the will of Allah. And I will never submit to the will of Allah. I'm a proud Jewish man, and I will stay fucking proud. The moment this guy wants to talk to me, the moment this guy wants to stand up and talk to me like a man, not like a wallet like you are. You're a little wallet, yeah? The moment he wants to stand up and talk to me like a man, I'm here. I'm fucking right here. 10 fucking Islamists in Camden just assaulted me, yeah? And look at me, I'm still standing here. So Muhammad's army, the mighty Muhammad's army can't do shit when we stand in their faces. They're trying to take over the fucking West. They're trying to destroy free society, freedom of thought, freedom of expression.
But yeah, my finger still hurts from giving it back.
You got a few of them back.
Of course.
Good, man. Did you study any martial arts before? Or?
Yes. So when I was 10, I took up kickboxing. And during the exams of when I was, I guess, leaving high school, I stopped it for a while. But then I left the Jewish bubble at 16. I was in Jewish schools all the way up until that point, Jewish scout groups and everything. And never religious, but traditional and understanding of my background. I left the Jewish bubble, went to a public college, and really that bubble was well and truly burst. I understood that the Jewish world is like this. It's very protective and shielding, and there's lots of benefits and beautiful things that come from that, but the whole world is so much greater. We're very insignificant, especially from a numbers perspective, and we're very hated and envied, I think is a better word. So yes, I learned to take up my martial arts again. I told you I took a little hiatus from it. I took up kickboxing and jiu-jitsu and Krav Maga.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think kickboxing and jiu-jitsu and Krav Maga can come very handy in a street fight.
Oh, yes.
Can definitely come very handy. That's a good mix because you don't want to drop someone, start rolling and choking you on the street while you have 10 other friends. So that's where kickboxing or Krav Maga will come to give you that window to run away.
Absolutely.
So after they were trying to rip your flag, or they ripped your flag from your hand and ripped your jacket and punched you in the face, and you kicked a few of them and punched a few of them, how did you get out of there?
It kind of just dissipated naturally, luckily. As the video stopped, one of them threatened to stab us. They didn't show us a knife, but they said, if you don't leave now, we're going to stab you, in the British way of saying it.
Is that something normal right now in the UK, where if you go to the street and you show an Israeli flag or Jewish symbols, you might get stabbed or attacked?
Oh yeah, it doesn't even need to be a Jewish symbol. There's knife crime daily in London. Daily, yeah.
Wow.
England's now home to some of the most dangerous cities in Europe.
And is the police there? Do you feel like they're there to protect you? Because I've been seeing these bizarre videos, and I can't really explain it, man. It looks to me like sometimes like it's too much, where they're arresting British people for just praying or sharing political opinion, but then you have cars driving in the street saying, you know, forgive my language, F the Jews, rape their daughters, and then no one is doing anything about it. Is that real?
Oh yes, so that's actually a really good example you've just used, because I know a few bits of that case specifically. There, I think that was just after October the 7th, where they did a convoy from Manchester to London, or Bradford to London, of cars with Palestine flags and megaphones and everything.
Yeah.
So that specific car
Raped their daughters.
raped their daughters, exactly. And that was reported as a hate crime, and it was investigated, and all charges were dropped because they couldn't identify the individual within the car that said it.
Come on.
Oh yes, but if you stand silently praying outside an abortion clinic, whatever your opinions are, if you stand genuinely, just silently, you're thinking whatever you're thinking in your head, praying whatever you're doing, and there's a woman that's been arrested, multiple people have been arrested for that.
I think that's why the US, you know, came now with the Trump administration. They basically just called it out. They said, you know, free speech in the UK has been taken away from the people by the government, and they're allowing, because, you know, I don't buy this bullshit. Sorry to say it. UK is one of the most CCTV'd nations on planet Earth. That's a fact. I know.
London is, I think, the most surveilled city in the
Yeah,
world.
yeah. I used to work, you know, I was in special forces, I worked in law enforcement, and I used to meet with like colleagues, and it's known that you don't want to commit a crime in places like Dubai, in places like London, because they will catch you. So come on, you didn't catch a convoy of cars driving radical jihadists saying they want to rape the Jewish daughters, but then you catch a woman that is praying out of a clinic abortion.
And I should add to that, I submitted a police report, although unfortunately I had to fly out of the country the next day. So not the next day after the fight, the next day after I submitted the report. And they told me they'd set up a video call, and they sent me an email, and the video call never happened.
Really? Very convenient.
Never happened. Although I have as you've all seen on social media, I have a video of all of their faces coming and assaulting me. The moment they assault me, during the attack, everything.
So the guys who assaulted you, they chose to drop that. But what would have happened if you would have assaulted a migrant?
Oh, that's a different story, and we've seen whatever your views on Tommy Robinson are, and I'm not so favourable of him, but I think he's been brave enough to be vocal about the radical change in British society, and that's one thing that I see in him. But he's been in solitary confinement for, I think, half a year, at least half a year, maybe longer, and that's criminal. That's killing a man. You put a man in solitary, you put anyone in solitary confinement.
Is he still in solitary confinement now?
Yeah. For sharing a documentary which he wasn't allowed to share, of him interviewing members of the public who were paid off to hide a story. Exactly on topic.
You know, that breaks my heart. That's breaks my heart, because whenever I used to use an example of countries that planet Earth, the West, owes them a huge debt, I always tell my friends America and the UK. Because when Nazi Germany was about to take over planet Earth, Germany just came and said, come on, planet Earth, let's fight. And they were winning. They were insane. They were very good with their military. They were defeating everyone. And most countries were just rolling over. And the last ones to stand were the UK with Churchill, which just, you know, a heroic last stand of the Western world. And then America came and joined, and they managed to defeat. So these countries are known to be brave, and were always known to have a fierce stance against radical ideology that came to conquer the world. And here we are, we have a radical ideology called radical Islam, or in general, Islam. And they're coming to take, and they come, and the UK is just rolling over. And for me, it's like when I use examples of the countries, because I live in Germany, and I feel like in Germany, they're still kind of standing their ground compared, but then I look at what's happening in the UK or in France and other places, and it looks like a lost cause. Do you think that the UK can recover?
It's a very difficult question. My immediate answer is no, however. I think because it's voluntary, it seems to be being done by choice. And whenever people speak out against it, they are in a very calculated manner, they are shut down, if not arrested.
But aren't there any young and old, brave man and woman like you who will just come and stand their ground and say enough is enough?
There's a fair few on the social media and the news channels, not the BBC, the ITV, or the Sky News, because it's not within their interests, but you've got the GB News, the Talk TV, you've got people like Douglas Murray, Darren Grimes. There's a few, I say there's a fair few, there's only a handful really of political correspondents that are brave enough to say it how it is.
But what about the people in the street? Aren't they bothered? Because they used to have a Britain where they wake up and they have the British culture. I don't know, you may be stereotypical, but they'll go and have a cup of tea and have a nice British breakfast somewhere and just sit and enjoy the nice sunny day. But now you go, I've been to the UK. I've went to record the anti-Semitism there, and I've rarely seen British people in the street. I've seen mostly migrant. Now I'm all for diversity, that's great. But it just felt to me like it was overrun by diversity and also overrun by Muslim diversity. So it's just a lot of Muslims in the street that are coming from very radical countries. Countries where they're stoning women, where they're throwing gay people out, where they're encouraging teenage sex, marriage, and I don't know what, basically taking just young girls and forcing them to become sex slaves. And I'm just asking, like, that's becoming the streets in the UK, and aren't the UK fed up with it?
So I think you have to go back a fair while to start understanding what's really been going on, and it's not unique to the UK. It's been going on in America, in Europe, and everywhere with so-called Western values.
Okay.
Or once with Western values. And that's the conquering of ideology. First of all, you have to take the universities. And it's been a very calculated effort by enemies of the West, such as Russia, China, Qatar. There's a very interesting interview with a Soviet defector in the 1980s from the KGB.
Yeah.
He interviewed in America in '84 called Yuri Bezmenov. I recommend you listening to it.
Crazy.
He talks about ideological subversion and demoralization of a nation. So how do you demoralize a nation? You teach its kids that its entire history is oppressive and wrong, basically. So we've been taught that Churchill was the enemy. We've been taught that, like, to look at the Israel-Palestine conflict, if one side has more deaths, then they must be the victim. For example, there was an interesting debate. I think Ben Shapiro went to Oxford University and spoke to a Muslim student there, and they were talking about that very thing, that the death toll is not even. BBC used that term, and that's such a twisted way of looking at things, because during World War II, we had to bomb Hamburg and Dresden, and we flattened these cities. I think in Hamburg, over 50,000 people, civilians, died in one night, and at the hands of the British RAF. Does that make the British the Nazis? So we have to
The
ask,
British saved the world.
we have to ask ourselves these questions.
Yeah.
And just on that topic, I believe it was Keir Starmer who very recently took down Winston Churchill's portrait at 10 Downing Street. We are forgetting what a strong leader looks like.
Wait, are you being very serious right now? Are they teaching that Winston Churchill was a bad guy?
I didn't go to a top university in the UK, thankfully. I know people that have and have turned out to be ideologues, radical ideologues.
That is so scary that you send your kid to university, he comes back as an airhead, brainwashed.
So who's the
Western
top funder of US universities? Qatar. There you go. You know that. I know that.
Yeah.
So what do we think? Do you think they love our kids and they want our kids to grow up educated, or they want our kids to grow up thinking that this is the way? And
Political correctness is the greatest enemy of Europe. And I think the prime example, and I would love to hear your thought about it, because that's when I realized that maybe that's where I gave up on the UK. And I hope not, because I have very good friends from the UK. But when I heard about this grooming gangs taking British daughters and boys, sexually assaulting them, and covering up in the thousands, I said, a nation that will not rise to defend its daughters from foreign invaders that came to rape their daughters, this nation have no future. No future. I can't see them surviving. So I said, if that was not enough, unless the media is just lying and this never happened, I mean...
yes, so I mean, just to go back to what I said a minute ago, it starts from the ideology.
Yeah.
So you start by inventing words such as Islamophobia.
Oh, yeah.
The part phobia means it's an irrational fear. How is it an irrational fear when people with Islamic names blow themselves up and commit terrorist attacks
And shout
and
Allah
rape
Akbar
our
before they
children?
do
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can't possibly be an irrational fear. And you're not allowed to even quote the Quran to state your opposition to that ideology infesting our Western values. because that's Islamophobia, despite it being perfectly rational. So when you start with these ideologies, it enters all forms of society, such as the police force, such as the government, and such as the high courts, so that when these things happen, when these horrendous things happen en masse, you have, and I think this is just a factor, not the entire story, but you have individual police officers, judges, and etc., being afraid to call it how it is, to give people a proper sentence, and to pursue these cases.
So the government is crippling its own people from actually defending itself.
Absolutely.
Aren't you afraid, speaking right now in my podcast about these things, because if you one day go back to the UK, they can come and tell you, hey, you're an Islamophobe?
Yeah. I've been back to the UK 3 times in the past 6 months, maybe 8 months. Every time I've been just holding my breath very slightly when I land.
Wow, man, a young British UK citizen who feels like if he goes back to his country, he might get in trouble just because he chose to say, I'm in Europe. I'm telling you, you have every reason to be an Islamophobe. And this is not a joke. People don't like to hear it, but I'm telling you, 99% of the terrorist attack happened from people that shouted Allahu Akbar just before they did it. So that's kind of make it quite obvious that there's a problem there. And if someone walks into a bar and shouts L'chaim, I'm gonna laugh, or Happy Hanukkah, Happy Hanukkah. If someone walks in and says Merry Christmas, someone walks into a bar and shouts Allahu Akbar, I'm gonna flip the table, kick the table at him, and try to jump out of the window before the whole, because you said like shit, it's gonna be really bad. So there's a reason there. So the problem is not with me. The problem is the guy who's shouting Allahu Akbar and his community. They need to sort their stuff. Having someone from the UK and looking at the media right now feeling afraid to express their views is a serious problem. But here's what I'm thinking. I don't hear enough people from the UK saying enough. Rising up, saying we don't want that anymore. Like, it feels to me like, the parable of the frog in the water?
The boiling water.
Yes. So UK feels to me exactly like that. Like the frog is there and they boil it slowly, and he's just never jumping. And now he's just floating happy, getting boiled. That's what it feels to me.
I use a similar analogy, but it's one of my own, in that there's a wooden door, and there's you, the civilian, standing on the other side of that wooden door, and someone that you know is there is pointing a gun at your head through that door. But the door's closed, but you're well aware, you've been informed by reputable sources that guy is there standing with the gun pointing at your head, and the door is not going to do anything to stop that bullet. And people say, especially the Jewish community, and I've been trying to reach the Jewish community with this, that we need to leave the UK and we need to leave Europe.
Wow.
And I really mean that, and I've been saying it for a while. I've been
I
thinking
hope
it for
this is
even
not
longer.
going to be one of these videos that we're going to watch 10 years from now, where people are going to say the warning was written on the wall.
Yeah. But just to finish the analogy, people say that the most common answer I get, including from my family members, to we need to leave now is, I'll leave when it gets too bad. To go back to the analogy, when it gets too bad is when the door is open and the trigger has been pulled.
That's what the Jews in Europe said.
Yeah, the door in that metaphor
In Germany.
is only serves the purpose to shield you. And it doesn't shield you in the literal sense, it shields your vision and your understanding of the gravity of the problem that is on your doorstep.
That's what the Jews in Germany said when every sign showed that something terrible is coming, and most of them said it's going to get better, it's going to get better, we'll leave if it gets worse. And then soon enough, they were rounded up on trains and taken to concentration camps. I mean, I don't think we're there yet, but if you would let these radicals, Muslims there, then we will be there. That's undoubtedly.
I want to answer your question. You said, how could the British people let this happen?
Yeah.
Are there people rising up? And I think you know the phrase, comfort is a killer. And I think that's the most relevant phrase today. And I talk about this all the time. So my followers, please don't get annoyed at me. Comfort is a killer in that we've had, ever since the food rations stopped after World War II, especially in England, we've had an immense level of comfort. We weren't invaded on land by the Nazis. We weren't occupied. We had it very, very tough. Virtually the entirety of London was bombed. But for 70, 80 years, we've had immense comfort and prosperity and privilege in our society. So and as I'm sure you know, which I think is very famous with the British people, the stiff upper lip, carry on, get on with things mentality is an element of the fact that we're comfortable and just who we are as a people. We are as a people, this too shall pass. sort of thing. And unfortunately, you can't take that attitude to an invading force.
No.
And that's what we're dealing with. Whether you want to call me a racist or whatever you want to call me. I'm an immigrant, my family are immigrants. All of my best friends in the UK from growing up were immigrants.
You're not a racist at all saying that. Here's what the people don't understand. The Muslim agenda is to conquer the world and put it under Sharia. Radical and non-radical, that's their faith. If he says he's not a Muslim anymore, because this is their faith. They want the world to become Muslim. They believe it's a good thing. Britain is not a Muslim country. Europe and the Western society are not. So they want to make it Muslim. Now you have two options. Either convert and join them, or tell them, sorry guys, we don't want it. Now when you say sorry, you don't want it, what happened? Then violence starts happening. And then you need to decide, am I going to stand my ground and stop it? Or am I going to feel, I don't want to be looked as a Islamophobe or as racist, so I'm going to keep a blind eye on the violence. And that's what they're doing. Because you hear so many of these guys in the street saying, actually you hear them saying like Britain is becoming Muslim, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know how many children are the average British family bringing.
So I've actually recently looked into this. I'm hoping I get the numbers right. So the average child per woman in society required to keep society sustained
Like 2.5.
is 2.1.
Okay.
Yeah. In the UK, we're at 1.6, if I'm not mistaken, for British mothers, or women, I should say. And the Muslims in the UK are at 3.1.
Yeah.
So even if you forget all of the ideology, all of the stuff with the police and the government, everything else, you look at it purely mathematically, it's only a matter of time.
Here's another thing that, is kind of worrying me. Like, radical Islam is rising in the streets in the UK. I've seen it myself. I had to hide my Israeli identity when I was there. I literally made a sticker on my hat because I have Ezra and Zion here. It's a hat for my friends. They have a business in the US and they call it Ezra and Zion. And I like the hat. They gave me for free. I like it. I like free stuff. I kept it. It's not a sponsorship thing, just good friends. But I said, like, Ezra and Zion is a very Israeli thing. So I put like a sticker with a watermelon kind of drawing on it. And I went undercover into these, pro-Palestine demonstrations. They were peaceful, violent demonstrations. And I was just shocked from what I saw and from how radical it is. And I'm just wondering, how long can the UK handle that? How long until they start having terrorist attack right, left, and center?
I think we're not handling it, first of all. These protests are in the hundreds of thousands, often, and they've been going on every single week since October the 7th. So it's a no-go zone for Jews, at the very least. But I don't know if you noticed when you said you went down to these protests in person, did you notice how much socialist and communist influence were there?
I was shocked.
It's almost half the protest, if not more.
Yeah.
And it's something that you hear about. A similar story is being told about pre-Islamic Revolution Iran, where the left weirdly made alliances with radical Islamists, which obviously ended terribly for the left once Islam
always
took power.
bad for them.
But I'd say the UK is not handling it. But we were talking before we started recording about the situation in Europe, how it seems worse maybe in Europe than in the UK.
I said like England looks like it's one of the worst countries right now to be in terms of the fear from violence from radical Islam. But then you brought a really interesting point that I didn't think about it. Do you mind sharing that?
Yes. So, I mean, if you stay in touch with the news, you're seeing a terrorist attack virtually every 48 hours across France, Belgium, Sweden, Germany, Austria, sort of. And it's extremely alarming.
Yeah.
From the UK, there's hardly been one in the last few months, at least months. And
Which was a surprise for me when you mentioned that. Because actually you're right. I don't remember when did I hear the real terrorist attack happening in the UK, like, someone driving a car and ramming it into people. But in Germany, it's happening almost on a weekly basis now. Stabbing children in kindergartens, I don't know what. What do you think the reason for that?
So I want to preface my answer by saying, I still think the problem in the UK is worse than all those countries I just listed. I'll get on to why. First of all, in the UK, our intelligence services are much more overarching and overreaching than in these other countries. So like you said, London, I think, is the most surveilled city in the world. And our intelligence services, for example, just recently in the last week or two, the UK government mandated that Apple would remove their encryption so they can hear what you're saying even when your phone's off, pretty much.
Shit.
So that's what's going on in the UK. So that just shows you the level of surveillance that's going on in the UK and how there's just no freedom. And obviously they're preventing terrorism, but they're also
At what
arresting
price?
and locking. Exactly, they're arresting and locking people up for disagreeing with things that should be open.
At what
open conversation.
price? Yeah. At what price?
So let me expand on why I said I think the UK is worse. I think the UK is in a worse situation because the Islamism is so much more ingrained in politics than in the likes of France, Germany, Belgium.
Wow.
We had, I believe, 5 or more members of parliament this last election that were voted in exclusively off of their support for Gaza and the support of the destruction of Israel. Exclusively.
My
These people are in the British Parliament, the oldest house of politics, of Western politics. And they were voted in exclusively off of the back of their support for Gaza.
You know how terrifying that is for Western countries who are allies with the UK, seeing what's happening with your country with, freedom of speech, with how they're tolerating and endorsing radical Islam. It's very concerning. Like, yes, you might not having, street stabbings and car rammings in Christmas markets like you have in Germany, but I feel like the UK is suffering more from the silent killer. They're just taking them much slower. While in other countries, they're doing the mistake of rising up too fast and showing what do they mean when they talk about jihad and intifada, and that's waking up these countries. Okay, maybe we need to push them out. But the UK, they just went so slow that now it's almost too late.
I think that just goes back to the comfort and the British mindset of this too shall pass, and we'll get over this, and the fact that we've had no real radical change or upset in society to a significant scale, like a ground-shaking scale, in the UK since World War II. And even that didn't reach our shores as in boots on the ground. We have had so much continuity and comfort and sustained prosperity in the UK where the population, now in the biggest cities in the UK, London, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, Brighton, they're all majority immigrant.
Where do you feel safer? In the UK or in Israel?
Not even a question. I feel safer when I'm hearing the sirens for rockets than in the streets in London. Every 30 seconds I turn over my shoulder in London.
Goodness.
You can't even stand by the side of the road in London on your phone because someone's going to come on a bike and rip it out of your hand. Wow. You have to, if you're smart and you're spatially aware, you need to put your back against a shop and you have to hold it with 2 hands and you always got to be looking up while you're on your phone in the streets. It is very soon to become, if it's not already, a dog-eat-dog world in the UK. And it's just, and I've been to the likes of Egypt, and that's what it feels like in Cairo. Because they can't, if you're not aware of the political situation in Egypt, it's a dictatorship, it's a tyranny. You can't talk about politics. I even started trying to talk about this is before October the 7th, I started to talk with some Muslim friends that I made there about what they thought about Israel. And they just immediately shut me down. Not because they hate Israel, but because we don't talk about politics.
Yeah.
People disappear in these societies.
Well, it looks like people are starting to disappear in the UK when they talk
That's
about
what we're
politics.
staring in the face. We're staring radical tyranny in the face. If it's not already there.
That is insane, man. That is insane. Let's take a break.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Wait. Thomas Levy, that one for you. That's the guy that's gonna have the headache of editing. At least I'm not burping. Usually I burp a lot.
That's a good way to cut.
Yeah, it's when I'm burping. yeah, exactly. I'm not burping or farting right now. That's gonna get out of the Well, actually, if Thomas is up to him, he might leave it. But anyway.
If only with AI you could program it to automatically cut for a burp or a fart. That would be great. That's where the technology is headed.
Yeah. But you might have just started with a startup. Okay, so ideological subversion.
Yes. So I mentioned ideological subversion and demoralization of a nation earlier from the KGB defector. And we were told that the Cold War ended in 91. The wall fell down in Berlin and all of a sudden the communists no longer hate Western values. They no longer are against what we stand for. And that's just a crazy way of thinking. And it goes back to the comfort and complacency because we haven't had boots on the ground war at that point for a long time. So to frame that within society, and just forgive me for, I might be rambling for a moment. So
No, go ahead.
Whenever. To use an example of ideological subversion, the Brits and the British Empire was a big perpetrator of the slave trade, right? And we can all agree, I'm sure, that slavery is wrong.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that today, ironically, we've got so many activists, but also today there are more slaves than have ever been in history. And the activists that post on their social media about being so woke are sharing with a phone that's been made with slave labor. But anyway, that's besides the point. The point is, to use a good example, is the slave trade. The British were perpetrators of it. But what you aren't taught in the universities is that the British lost tens of thousands of men in attempts to end the slave trade worldwide. And you're not taught that the Arabs, because they're brown, because they can't be the evil that the white people are, you're taught that the Arabs never contributed to the slave trade. In fact, that they had slaves for much longer and in a much more brutal
The Ottoman Empire have taken more slaves than probably any white person in the history almost. You know, the amount of slavery under the Muslim countries was insane.
And they took thousands from Europe. So white people were slaves as well. So the ideological subversion is teaching people to hate their own history and their own past. So these once white nations, such as England and parts of Europe, have been taught that the white man is the demon because the white man is the only one capable of the slavery. And this ideological subversion and demoralization, teaching the kids to hate their own country's history, is now translated onto, for example, the conflicts surrounding Israel. So you have...
If the white man, sorry for cutting you out, but if the white men are so bad, then how come all the brown people want to move to white countries?
Well, that's
People don't like to hear that, but let's be honest.
The $1 million question.
Let's be honest.
But to play devil's advocate, you'd say, because the white countries destabilized all these Arab or brown countries, when really the ideology that controls the majority of these Arab nations is stuck in the 1400s, as we mentioned earlier, with the child sex slaves and
freedom of speech,
cutting off your hand if you steal something.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah,
freedom is almost non-existent in Arab countries.
Yeah, so I think that's a terrible argument to say that it's also, again, it's ideological subversion. It's the white man's fault that these people are coming here. So that's why we must accept them. So anyway, how this is translated, it's almost like a American mind frame of Americanized problems being translated onto our conflict to simplify it and create this traction with the propaganda. So the Arabs or the Palestinians are the black people, and the white people are the European colonizers, the Jews. So that really simplifies an ancient and very complex conflict and history in a land, so that people can very easily just say, these are the colonizers, they're killing these people, look at the numbers, there's X thousand dead on one side and only X thousand dead on the Israel side. So they simplify these things by removing the external context and by teaching these Western societies that their own history is the demonic side, so that they can then translate that onto external conflicts.
When you start teaching your own country that they're the bad guys, and then your youth start believing that the country is the bad guys, no wonder this country is gonna fall to the ground. They're not gonna survive. But that's, there's a very famous saying, many people said that before me, that hard times create strong men. Strong man creates good times create weak men. And I feel like right now we're strongly in the weak man phrase. And that's the only explanation that I explained about what's happening in the UK, because I can't understand how come they're allowing what's happening in the UK to happen, where people are afraid to share their views, where the government is just, behaving like dictators, where foreigners, invaders are coming to your country, taking your daughters, sexually assaulting them, and then your men and women are not standing against it. There's no way you can explain that. If someone will come to a Druze village and try to harm their daughters, he's not gonna leave that village alive. I'm being very serious. He's gonna leave that village in an ambulance, maybe. If someone comes and tries to hurt your daughters, you're not going to allow it. But for some reason, the Brits are allowing that. Europeans are allowing that. How many times can they have cars driven by jihadists into Christmas markets and just people running in the streets stabbing their own people, their own children? In Germany, you had Afghanis and Syrians going and stabbing babies in kindergartens. And they're just, making excuses. Oh, you're being Islamophobe. It's not all of them. He's been mentally insane. Well, you know what? If you go by the definition of mentally insane into the Middle East, you'll find out that half the people there are considered mentally insane. Let's just be honest. They're just, the mentality that they have there, the way that they view women, the way they view human rights is not the same thing that you have it in the West. But the West is making excuses for them again and again. And that's just,
Well, we have to listen. First of all, we have to listen to what they're saying, and they being Islam. So Islam is stuck in the 1400s, and society is controlled by Islam likewise. So, like you said, the rights of women are non-existent, freedom of speech is non-existent. They're tyrannical regimes. We're not listening to what they're saying. We're allowing them into our country because we're stuck in this white man, brown man mind frame. And that's the ideology which is permitting this madness.
You're a young British, 25 years old?
Yeah.
And you've been to Egypt, right? You went there for tourism or
Yeah.
what? How old were you when you were there?
23.
23. What was your impression from the Egyptians, from the Muslims in Egypt?
I said earlier that the UK is becoming a dog-eat-dog society. Egypt is one of the best examples of a dog-eat-dog society. If they can scam you to 10 times the price of what something should cost, they will.
Same in Jordan.
It really is a backstabbing society within families, within friendship groups. It's horrendous. And I mean, I made friends with a fair few Muslim guys. And
Did you tell them that you're Jewish?
after a few days of knowing them and feeling comfortable around them, and when I did, and I told them that I'd been in Israel, I'm going back to Israel, etc., etc. One of them actually joked. I don't think it really was a joke, that he wanted me to put him in my suitcase and take him with.
To Israel?
Yeah. A Muslim Egyptian. And
that doesn't surprise me.
because these people don't know other than what they've been fed. And that's where this leads. They don't know other than the narrative that they're being fed. So that's where this censorship goes to. It's always under the guise of we're doing it in your own benefit. We are censoring hate speech on social media so that you don't have to feel anxious and upset when you read these things, when really the government just wants to cancel anything that disagrees with the government narrative.
A prime example of that, I feel, is what we're seeing right now with the Druze in Syria. I don't have been following that, but they're getting enough confident right now to literally just raise Druze flag, an Israeli flag, in a major city in Syria. They've been singing songs that they, glorifying Israeli Druze sheikhs. They're getting enough confident right now to say, Israel, take us, make us yours, or make us your allies, or I don't know what, because they don't want to live in a Muslim country. They don't want to live under it because they know how it is there. A good friend of mine, a good Druze friend of mine, he was the first Druze fighter pilot in the IDF. And I was talking with him jokingly the other day, and I said, you know what? If me and you were born in Syria or in Lebanon, we'd probably be farmers right now and would be fighting for our survival. We'd be leaving our doors shut. We'll be always in the fear that someone's going to come and try to kill us and take our daughters or I don't know what. But here in Israel, a Druze can become a pilot, can become a prime minister. Well, we didn't have a prime minister yet, but can become a government official, can become doctors, can become anything, academic, a school teacher, taxi driver. Israel have given me so many opportunities as a Druze, as an Arab, that none of the other Arab countries will ever give me or any minority. And that's why a lot of people in the Middle East are feeling that. That Egyptian person also saw like, that's an opportunity. And that's why they're going to Europe also. Because I feel like there, it's a Christian continent. They see it as a Christian. The Europeans don't see themselves as Christian anymore. And in that place, I have so many opportunities. But the problem is once they get there, they don't integrate and they go into their own, jihadist camps. And then they start trying to bring Sharia law and destroy that country as well. That is,
But it goes back to the ideological subversion. I'm sure you'll agree, Mansour, that in Israel, it is the best place for an Arab to live if they want freedom of speech, expression, thoughts.
By far, my sister is not afraid to walk in the streets of Tel Aviv or Eilat at 2 a.m. if needed, coming back from a friend's house. He doesn't need to wear anything, hijab or I don't know what, if he doesn't want to. No one forces her.
So the ideological subversion is the Jews, the white people, are oppressing and genociding the brown people, the people that must be the oppressed.
Which is one of the biggest lies I feel like social media is promoting right now. And it brings us to the point that it's just clear propaganda. I think that's why people are listening to podcasts. That's why people are coming to my podcast, are listening to vloggers, to influencers, listening to you, because I feel like we're so fed up of listening to social media, mainstream social media. And the whole idea of, we talked about it, political correctness. You said, where did you say that it came from?
Oh, Soviet
Soviet. They invented that basically to silence people from daring to talk against the government. And then conspiracy theories. Where did that come from? Probably the Soviet as well. Yeah, probably. Won't be surprised. And it's just a way of telling people, because I think what I really liked about Elon Musk, and you can say a lot of things about it, but when he bought Twitter and he put all the papers out there, he said that almost every conspiracy theory that was out there was actually true. So conspiracy theories are not that far-fetched. I mean, if you're talking about aliens and lizard people, then yeah, maybe, you can't take it too far. But a lot of the conspiracy theories that they had about, silencing people, about destroying Western civilization, turned out to be right.
But you mentioned the lizard people conspiracy theories being too far.
Yeah.
If we shut that down, we shouldn't have to shut that down.
No.
That should be shut down by open and free discourse.
By logic.
I can't remember who did this way describing the censorship and political correctness. But if these are the two extremes, left and right, so to speak, and you censor this because these are two extremes too much. Now you're here. Now we're at the extremes. Now they're here. Now we're going to continue censoring because this is too much. Now we're here.
Yeah.
There's no end.
Where does it stop?
When you start, there's no end. So censorship, really, there is no end to it. Once you censor from this extreme, you're here, and it's a slippery slope. So we have to allow people to talk about how much they hate the lizard people, because the people who have educated themselves off of open discourse and freedom of information will shut them down naturally. These discourses have to be allowed to happen. So when you mention Elon Musk and he fired, I think 85% of the staff at Twitter, and people are calling him and Trump fascists. What is a fascist? A fascist, the number one thing of a defining factor of a fascist is that shuts down their political opponents, their ideological opponents. And if you Google what is a fascist, the first three words include far right. What were the Nazis? The National Socialist Party. The biggest tyrannies in the world right now are all far left. And the Democrat Party sent a lot of money to Meta and to Google during their campaign.
Is the British government right now, is that a left?
Oh yes.
Interesting.
So recently you might have...
And there's the one who's telling people you can't say that, you can't say that. It's always the left.
It's always the left. So the Democrat Party sent hundreds of millions to the likes of Google and Facebook during their administration to censor and to push government narrative. And it still says on Google, it's a far-right ideology. Essentially excluding the fact that fascism...
The ones who are doing it are blaming the other side for doing it.
But that is the ideological subversion. It's completely flipped.
And
now, like you said, if you don't listen to podcasts where freedom of thought and expression is still available, while we still have it.
We still have it, yeah. I'm thankful that we still have it, because we might not have it. But if you right now, you come to my podcast, you can speak whatever you want.
Well,
and I will put it on TV. Whatever you want to say, I'll put it out there. But I don't know how long we can do that.
Exactly. And without this, there's no way of discerning reality from fairy tale fiction.
Have you seen the movie V for Vendetta?
No.
Oh man, you gotta see that movie. It's actually taking place in England, and it shows that England had so many terrorist attacks and civil unrest that then they appointed one strong leader to abolish it. But then what he did, he abolished social media, and he controlled the media, and then he controlled people, and then he created tyranny, a dictatorship. And then comes this hero that goes, he's like an anti-hero that goes and tries to fight it. V for Vendetta, have one of the best dialogues ever, like really good movie. But I feel like this is what the left is leading the UK to become. It's already kind of like there, as you said, that they listen to everything. There's no freedom of speech. You can't hide anything from the government there. And the government is right now very focused on silencing its own people and allowing, immigrants and invaders to have free speech. Because they have free speech. They go and they say in the streets, from the river to the sea and all kind of crazy genocidal stuff.
It's worse than that. I was at Speaker's Corner just after I got assaulted in Camden Town with the Israel flag, and I continued about my plans because that was my plan, and I wasn't gonna let it ruin it. And there was an Al Qaeda flag at Speaker's Corner, police standing meters away.
My God.
And nothing done whatsoever.
My God.
The guy didn't even have a mask on. That's how brazen and brave they are. Like
But if you go with an Israeli flag to a pro-Palestine demonstration, you'll probably get stopped.
you would be arrested for disrupting the peace. You would be.
But if they bring a terrorist flag into the streets, you won't be. Wow, man, what have happened to the West? Where's the world going? What do you think about the Druze? You didn't grow up in Israel.
No, I didn't grow up in Israel, so I have a fairly limited knowledge. But I understand that they were once Muslims, and I don't know roughly how long ago. But
1,000 years ago.
1,000 years ago, they separated from that, and they created their own sect essentially, and much more moderate and I guess family and tribe oriented. And I think that limited knowledge is almost enough to understand why the Druze and the Jews have become so close, because the Jews are nothing if we're not family oriented, tribe centric, and with those values, and we very much seem to share those values.
And I think the Druze also very much understand that they have a partner with the Jews, because Islam was trying to basically either convert them or kill them. And they saw the Jews and they said, okay, these guys are not trying to kill us or convert us. We can have partners with them. We can be like, friends. We can watch their back. They can watch our back. And that's what they did. And that's why Druze in Israel have by far the best life among all other Druze in Lebanon, in Syria, and anywhere else. And that's why Druze in Syria right now are so eager and desperate. Israel, take us. And Christians in Syria, please, Israel, protect us. It's crazy that you're having minority groups in an enemy country cheering for Israel and asking Israel to come and protect us, but the media is not covering that. That is happening right now. History is...
It's the subverted ideology, because the white Israel must be oppressing the other, and if it doesn't fit that narrative, then it's not part of what the public will be fed. So,
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a good reason why the BBC are being, for the first time ever, being publicly investigated.
Are they?
Yeah, which is enormous. There've been protests outside the BBC, largely organised by Jewish communities. For example, they when there was hostages being released the last couple of weeks, they said hostages on both sides. Hostages on both sides.
My God. Hostages on both sides.
Yeah, the BBC.
How
And
dare they?
where does the BBC get their money?
Qatar.
No, the UK taxpayer.
Really?
It's even worse.
It's even worse.
We're paying to be
Please,
fed
I would say,
lies.
at least Qatar, I can explain it.
We're paying to be lied to.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to take you outside. I'm gonna drag this camera with me. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, let's go. Okay, so I will show you guys what does it mean to live in Israel. So maybe you hold, I'll hold this. Can you just open the door? We're here in Tel Aviv right now, and I'm a Druze. He's a Jew. If I was living, or if he was living right now, in any of the Muslim countries around us, this would have not been our reality. Look what the Jews have managed to make and create out of this desert land that was full of camels and donkeys before, and look at it now. Look at, it's insane.
Well, it should be mentioned also that Gaza and the Palestinians are the largest recipients of international aid in modern history. And they had the opportunity, they had more than one opportunity to create a paradise.
Yeah.
Dubai version 1. Dubai should have been based off of what Gaza and the Palestinians should have had.
Yeah.
And we need to stop blaming ourselves, and we need to stop putting our arm out when it's just getting chopped off every time we instigate peace deals, and we need to start putting ourselves and our families within Israel as number one.
Yeah. And for all of you back there that keep hearing the slogans from the river to the sea, let me show you something very interesting. You see, right there, that's the river. That's the river there. That's the river. And right here, oh man, this is a heavy thing. Here, that's the sea. Right here. So when they're talking about from the river to the sea, you better be informed. and know that it's a very small land and it's the only Jewish land. Let's go inside. My hand is getting, I'm like holding the whole tripod like some kind of a Thor hammer. And that's how many lies they're feeding my book in Western media. Well, Samuel. Samuel.
That's it.
Yeah, I said it right?
Yeah.
Yes. Samuel. Shmuel.
Shmuel Asvietsu.
Thanks for coming, man.
It's a pleasure.
And I really appreciate how you're standing. And I feel that you are a brave young voice, that Europe needs to have more young men and women like you to stand their ground for what they believe in. And hopefully Europe will not try to silence young, inspiring voices like you who are just trying to protect Europe, to protect your own countries.
I really, really appreciate that. And I think you left me with V for Vendetta as a recommendation. I'm going to leave you and the viewers with a serious recommendation. And that's Churchill at War. It's on Netflix. It's a 4-part docudrama. And it's amazing. They use AI to read out Churchill's letters to Roosevelt, for example, in, did I say Roosevelt?
Yeah.
It is Roosevelt, right?
Roosevelt, yeah, I think that was the president.
I hope I'm right. They read out Churchill's letters in Churchill's
Both had
voice.
ADHD, so forgive us.
So you said V for Vendetta, and Churchill had a very famous V, like this. And if anyone understands British culture, this means up yours. This means peace. This means up yours. And we need more of this in order to reach this, which is exactly the ideology and the mindset that Churchill fostered in the British people to keep them in the fight until the big dogs, the United States, came in. So if I can leave you guys with one thing, it is have this attitude, get stronger, say up yours to people who openly call for your destruction, and say it with your chest. And yeah, fight for freedom because it's extremely, extremely fragile.
Wow. Amen, brother. Thank you so much. My pleasure. My pleasure. All right. That was good.
That was great.
Here we go.
Man, I need to watch V for Vendetta.
You need to.
You must watch Churchill at War.
I will.
Oh my God.
Remember, the 1st of November. I'll show you a trailer, right?